It's 50 years since the kitchen debate, a famous impromptu discussion between U.S. and Soviet high-level officials at the peak of the Cold War. Nikita Khrushchev and Richard Nixon held forth on the merits of their respective policies and economies. Diplomats say the exchange laid the foundations for future cooperation, and many believe it is still important today as the U.S. and Russia push the reset button.
The year was 1959, and it was the first high-level meeting between U.S. and Soviet officials at the peak of Cold War. And what brought the Soviet leader and the American vice president together was a trade fair in Moscow.
Exactly 50 years ago, Nikita Khrushchev and Richard Nixon arrived here at the Sokolniki Exhibition Center for a chance to show off their respective achievements. But neither man probably thought that one single aspect of the exhibit, a simple American kitchen, would become the backdrop of a frank discussion that later would be televised on both continents.
The discussion became known as the kitchen debates.
To be honest with you, I think it was a propaganda stunt for both of the men. Nixon, for example, used the debates to boost his public appeal and secure the Republican presidency nomination.
It was a successful trick as Nixon went on to become the next American leader, and Khrushchev gave the world the often quoted phrase, "We'll show you what is what." But for many, it wasn't the debates they remembered the most.
I was one of the guides. I didn't carry so much away from the kitchen debate because I worked in the House, and what was significant to me were the crowds that came after Nixon and Khrushchev had left. So that, to me, was the most important part, not so much the kitchen debate.
The press was somewhat skeptical of the debate at the time, but diplomats today say it was one of the first steps in cooperation between Moscow and Washington.
I think the Sokolny exhibition had an enormously important impact on relations between Russians and Americans over time. The 19 exhibitions that it gave rise to over the following 3 decades. And I think it's always important to remember today as we seek to make a new beginning in our relationship, a fresh start, about the importance of connections not just between governments but also between societies.
And with the reset mood favored in both Russia and the U.S., it may well be that 50 years after the kitchen debates, Russian and American leaders will put competition aside and focus on the things that really do matter.